Yes, it happened again. Yet another indie game has managed to become a runaway success in just a span of 2 days, as they keep proving that the future of the gaming industry is right on their hands. I'm talking about Far Far West. It's a new game released on the 28th of April. It's a PvE online co-op shooter. And let me tell you, it's so incredibly fun. So let's go over what the game is. The crazy success is seen as the numbers keep on rising, and how this has become just yet another statement in the face of the AAA gaming industry as they keep struggling. But first, a word from our sponsor. I'm kidding, I don't have a sponsor. So Far Far West released only 2 days ago, at least as of the time of recording, and I had no idea this game existed. I opened Steam, I saw it on the front page. Just by the art, I thought, okay, let's see it. I clicked in and I see over 2,000 positive reviews. It was at 98% positive reviews. The moment I saw that, I thought, okay, let's look at it. So after a quick look, I thought, okay, it looks pretty fun. And if the reviews are so good, probably pretty entertaining. So I purchased the game. Man, this game is just fun. Like I said, it's an online co-op shooter. So essentially you take the role of a cyborg cowboy with magic powers and crazy weapons that fight ghostly skeletons while you ride a mechanical horse. Yes, it is that crazy. So you grab a quest, you grab a mission. This is mission based. So from the hub, you grab a mission in an area and you are transported in through a flying train that drop you on the map. For now, there are, I think, 6 areas. I've only visited 3 so far. You have a series of objectives to do in order to unlock a boss fight, and once you kill the boss, you need to, well, extract from the area. But that is as far as it goes with the extraction mechanics. There is no losing your gear or anything. You simply drop in there, you go and complete one main objective that you need to complete in order to unlock the boss. Then you head to the boss, kill the boss, and then you need to sprint towards the extraction point where the train comes to pick you up. It is really just a very fun game. The guns feel very satisfying to shoot. There is a decent variety. Only you can carry 2 weapons, a main gun and a sidearm. The main gun goes from a semi-auto rifle, then you have a shotgun, sniper rifle, Gatling gun, and a lever action rifle. And then on the sidearm you have a revolver, dual revolvers that are hilarious because when you run out of ammo, instead of recharging them, they're bombs. So the moment you run out of ammo, your character throws them like they're grenades, and they picks 2 new ones. It's just so much fun. You just run around blowing shit up. On top of that, you have magic powers that you can trigger. Up to 3 spells you can have at the same time. Not only that, but you can combine them. And then you keep defeating hordes and hordes of enemies. When you reach the boss, you need to defeat the boss while the enemies come to your location. In a sense, it's very similar to Helldivers 2. You drop in, you have to complete a series of objectives. They vary depending on the mission. On an objective has you, like for example, you need to activate a drill. And while the activation is happening, you have a timer and you get assaulted by hordes of enemies while you are completing the quest. There is also side quests, like side objectives that you can go and complete for extra rewards. There is also like hidden collectibles throughout the maps. And I would say for an early access game, it has a good variety in terms of weapons that you need to unlock. Plus you have some power-ups that you can keep grabbing. There are some that are just joke. For example, there is a power-up that if you grab it, when you walk around, it makes squeaky sounds like you're stepping on a rubber duck. It's useless beyond that, but they're just there. But the core is, it's just so incredibly fun. You just are running and gunning. So it had some elements of bullet hells games as well. Another great aspect of the game is the customization. While you don't have as many skins and stuff, everything you can just earn it in game. Which is, again, okay, it's fair. It's something that I would expect from an indie early access title. But sometimes I'm just half expecting it to have paid skins. So far, I've been having a blast. I played like, I don't know, maybe 8 hours, something like that. Oh, it's very satisfying. You can imbue your sidearms with elements, so you can have your revolver shoot bullets that set enemies on fire, or they apply poison to them, or they electrify them. No, and it starts pretty easy. If you play on easy, it's fairly manageable. You can play this game on your own. You don't need, it's not cooperative completely. You can go and completely offline. You can play on your own. But as you increase the difficulty of the missions, they go tough, okay? You start needing some cooperation between the players. Of course, there are objectives that require cooperation, so you need to activate 4 levers at the same time, things like that. If you're fond of something like Helldivers 2 or maybe even Left 4 Dead, I think you're gonna like it. It's a very, very silly game. Okay, it's a very silly game. It doesn't take itself seriously. I mean, so sure, the magic robot cowboys, it's a dead giveaway of that, but it's a very hilarious game. Now, this game is developed by Evil Raptor Studios, which is they're a small developer from France. And when I say small, I mean small. This is a 7-guy team. Now, this is not their first game. They have made 2 more that are available on Steam, but this is by far their most successful one. When I jumped in the day of release, when I saw it on the front page, the peak player, it was like 12,000, something like that. It peaked at like 15,000 on the first day, which is crazy considering their most successful, the other most successful game they released peaked at 800 in its entire lifetime. Then the next day, it went all the way to 25, then 30, and right now, as of the time I'm recording this, it's sitting and climbing at 35,000 concurrent players on Steam. This is crazy, and it's probably gonna go a little bit higher. They've announced today, like hours ago, that they've sold 250,000 copies in 48 hours. 250,000 copies in 2 days. By the way, the game also runs wonderfully. It has been suffered. Apparently, it had some connection issues today. And while sometimes I've experienced disconnects, I haven't experienced any in a match. By the way, it looks very good. The effects, the particle effects, the explosions, they look sick. It has a very animated look. But like I said, it runs very well. And right now, it's on sale all the way to May 5th. It's 10% off for the release. By the way, I don't think I didn't mention it's an early access game. But right now, you can get it for 18 euros. So I say it's more than worth it. My experience and performance has been absolutely amazing. Okay, the game runs fairly well. Even, I mean, of course, I have a pretty beefy PC. For reference, I have a 5070 Ti and a 9700X, but I haven't experienced any stutters, any frame drops. So yeah, we have yet another studio, extremely small studio, showing the AAA gaming industry that in order to make a popular game good and well polished, you don't need $400 million and 2,000 people teams. Now, we're gonna be fair here. Of course, you can get a lot more done with that amount of money. But if you look at something like Marathon was treated as the golden boy for Sony and Bungie, and it's been bleeding players. I don't think it's doing very well. I think it's doing well for the type of game it is. The problem is how much that game cost. There is one thing that you need to keep in mind. The AAA studios keep focusing on massive games. And if a game that they release does not make all the money, is deemed a failure. For that metric, in the eyes of Sony, probably Marathon is a failure right now. While I think it has been fairly successful for a hardcore extraction shooter, I don't think Sony sees it that way. They have closed the door. They haven't left any room for smaller focus games that point out at a lower player base. Far, Far West, while it is very accessible and a lot of people can fun with it, because even if you don't particularly like first-person shooters, this is just jumping around, throwing spells while shooting in the middle. Sure, shooting is the most part, but you can completely enjoy it even if you don't really like first-person shooters that much. The AAA studios have completely lost it. They have so much money and resources. They could have plenty of small studios just making games like this. Making the types of games that people play with their friends a couple of hours on the weekend. They don't need to be live service. They don't need to have infinite support and infinite money poured into them. The big studios need to learn the lessons from these games. And what lessons can you learn from this game? The thing is, the bigger the studios become, or when they get a massive publisher with infinite money, like Bungie with PlayStation or Bungie with Activision back in the day, there's one thing you need to keep in mind, and you probably experience this in your own life. When you have too much of one thing, you start being less careful with it. And money is no exception. If for some reason you have more money that you need, so you manage to save up some money for not for anything specific, or you got a bonus, so now you have more money, what do you end up doing if you don't have anything specific that you need it for? You end up buying shit. I know I do. That's why I have more than 200 games on my Steam library, and I probably played half of them. And it's true also for AAA gaming companies. When a studio suddenly has access to too much money, they forget how to be efficient. The truth, even if the companies will tell you otherwise, the truth is, it is cheaper to make a game now than it ever was, because you have more access to better technology. Anyone can make a game of outstanding quality. That's why we have so many indie games. Don't get me wrong, they work very hard. And just because the game is good is no guarantee of success. That is the truth. But we've seen so many games pop off because more people with good ideas and talent can make those ideas a reality. Why? Because it's cheaper. You have a lot more access to technology that you ever did. And that is also true for the massive companies. Do you think they are the most efficient with their money? Do you think a game like Marathon, in its current state, couldn't have been made with less than $250 million? Apparently the rumors say that the game cost. You're telling me that the game couldn't be made for less money. I understand that there is some way sometimes you develop things that end up not being used. Famously, Assassin's Creed Shadows had 2 hours of credits, with apparently over 2,000 people involved in the development. Of course, they're not all developers, okay? That is counting every single soul that had input in the game. But still, when I say Ubisoft is shit, I don't mean the developers themselves. Most of them are just doing their job. I mean the company, mostly their leadership, or the leadership of the studio. Someone makes the decision that this game needs to be made with infinite money, and they just pour it in. And the studio grows bigger because they have access to that money. It would be a waste not to use it if you actually believe that your product can recoup it. But the truth is, you never know for certain. You never know if your game is going to be a success. Do you think the developers of Far Far West thought that the third game they're releasing on Steam, it's going to sell 250,000 copies? You can make an educated guess most of the time. If instead of Highguard, what was announced at the Game Awards was actually Titanfall 3, you could guess that it's going to sell quite a bit. Okay? The point is, the biggest lesson that they're not going to learn, but they should, and I'm going to keep repeating it, but they should, they need to keep the budgets under control. They need to give the developers more trust, not having make just one live service game after another. Thank you, Jim, by the way. What they should be learning is to control their budgets. And I'm not saying anything new. They should control their budgets in all senses. They shouldn't stop hiring people that they're not going to need, and give developers more trust. Let them make the games that they want to make. The biggest example of this is the developers of Hytale. They got bought out. Their game got completely destroyed and changed. They got essentially pushed out. Then when the game failed, they failed to release it because they bought the game back and brought it to what it was supposed to be, and it became a massive success. Because the truth is, the big AAA company CEO doesn't know shit. You can look at Take-Two's CEO. He just hires people that he knows are good and let them do their job. It's not to say he's not going to fire anyone and he won't get in the middle if he thinks things are not going the way they should. But Name the last Rockstar game that was bad. I'll wait. You need to give them more trust to the ideas that they have, the games that they want to make. And you could say, okay, that takes some risk, because I have no doubt that the developers of Concord thought that what they were making was good. And to be fair, the game wasn't a complete piece of shit. Okay, it ran fairly well and had good points to it, but it just wasn't meant to be. Clearly. That takes some risk. But you're going to tell me that's a bigger risk than keep burning money in attempts at live service games that fail one after another. And you keep taking people down with you. The games fall, but then the studios get closed, the developers get fired, many of them regroup, make new indie studios, and we have games like this. Or Expedition 33. Man, I wish AAA studios just keep going how they're going. That way we're just gonna get more indie games. All of this is to say, I've been playing this. This is a fantastic game, a lot of fun. I would strongly recommend it after the long rant about the industry. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell me in the comments below, what is your thinking of why we keep getting more and more indie games succeeding like this? Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.